Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are in day 88 of the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, and I have the localized tactical map pulled up of the area of operations spanning from really Severodonetsk just to the kind of the southeast of Izum, kind of in the northwestern quadrant of the map, and then obviously the centerpiece of the map is kind of focused on Popazna in this area where my cursor is circling. So one thing to note at this point, forces of Ukrainian forces that are deployed on the kind of the north east bank of the Donets River that kind of flows in between Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. We think some of these forces have been withdrawn, specifically the National Guard Rapid Reaction Force, some of the territorial forces, and right now, there is just a cadre of fighters that continue to resist Russian efforts within Severodonetsk. Much of this, the city of Severodonetsk, has been reduced and rubbleized in the ongoing fighting, and we estimate that there are no more than a few hundred Ukrainian forces left in Severodonetsk. And the Ukrainians right now are trying to position themselves really with a focus on now defending Lysychansk, and while at the same time redeploying forces in an attempt to stifle this breakout by Russian forces near Popazna. We believe at this point elements of the Ukrainian 17th Tank Brigade, additionally a 4th Tank Brigade of the Ukrainian military, supported by obviously the 24th Mechanized Brigade, 30th Mechanized Brigade, and 118th Territorial Defense Brigade, are continuing to try and resist this Russian breakout near Popazna. If we look at this salient that is starting to form and how Ukrainian forces are positioning themselves, they are right now, it would appear to be, at least on the surface, attempting to position themselves to eventually cut off Russian forces in a direction quite possibly to the southeast of Popazna. Now, with that being said, they have not started a counteroffensive as of yet. Very, very difficult for these Ukrainian forces, especially these more heavier forces, such as the 17th Tank Brigade, 24th Mech, 30th Mech down here to the south. These forces obviously being heavy forces and having to operate on roadways and what have you, and sometimes in column formations, are susceptible to Russian tactical air assets. And we have been seeing quite a bit of that, and that is one tactical advantage Russian forces currently maintain, especially in the area near Popazna. We continue to see Russian Mi-24 Hinds, K-52 gunships, and other tactical air assets such as Su-25 Frogfoots as well, going after these Ukrainian forces as they attempt to maneuver against Russian forces attempting this breakout near Popazna. But we'll continue to monitor this situation, and obviously we're keeping a very, very close eye on it. The leading forces that the Russians are using in this area near Popazna are elements of two naval infantry brigades. So far, these naval infantry units used by Russian forces have proved to be some very, very capable forces in the ongoing conflict. Even prior to the actual war, it had been widely reported that some of the best units outside of the airborne forces were in fact some of these naval infantry forces of the Russian Federation, and obviously the Russians are using quite a few of these forces in this ongoing offensive operation in the southeast area of the attack on Donbass, or the attempted localized encirclement of Lysychansk and Severodonetsk. To the northwest quadrant in this area, we're seeing more traditional, heavier units of the Russian military, obviously elements of the 90th Tank Division and other motorized rifle battalion tactical groups continue to operate mainly in the northwest, while again in the southeast quadrant, Popashnaya and other areas, we're seeing these naval infantry units continue to operate. But right now, the real focus is kind of this the small encirclement as opposed to the large encirclement. I know initially we had talked about and discussed the possibility that Russian forces would look to encircle and cut off Kramatorsk and Sloviansk, or shoot down this main highway and engage Sloviansk directly. That appears to be right now off the table. We're looking at first the small encirclement, and what I mean by the small encirclement is the small encirclement of Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. Once Russian forces are able to reduce Ukrainian strength in this small pocket, and again, there are significant Ukrainian forces allocated for the defense of this area. Again, 17th Tank Brigade, 24th Mechanized Brigade, you get the 79th Air Mobile Brigade, 58th Brigade, and a host of other territorial units in this area of operations that are at risk of being cut off by Russian forces. And then, more importantly, once the Russians are able to cut this area off, they will be able to lay bridgeheads across the Donetsk River and quite possibly repair some of these bridges, or one of these bridges that goes from Severodonetsk to Lysychansk. But once this happens, the Russians will have a much easier time in terms of maneuvering in this battle space as opposed to what they're trying to do in this area. They're really, right now, having some challenges. Mainly, you have heavy forested areas, and then obviously you have the issue of maintaining some of these bridgeheads over the Donetsk River. So the whole goal of this is designed to cut off these forces and then have this red area extend all the way up towards the main highway running north-south from basically Bakhmut up to Severodonetsk. And then the front line would consolidate roughly along this area, and then give the Russians the ability to make a move to sever, and then look to eventually circumvent and encircle Sloviansk and Kramatorsk, which would also alleviate a lot of pressure in terms of defensive capabilities of Ukrainian forces continuing to resist the Zoom access of advance for Russian forces. But that's kind of what we're seeing right now. I want to bring up this map where you can kind of the viewer can have a better idea of kind of what we're seeing around Popashna right now. The Ukrainian units, obviously, that are involved. Obviously, this is not completely accurate, but relatively accurate. But as we speak, as we talked about yesterday, we continue to see Russian forces pounding away at these Ukrainian forces. But at the same time, the Ukrainian forces continue to resist in a very tenacious manner, and heavy fighting continues really in this eastern quadrant of the what you would define as the Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk area of operation. But again, right now, the area where the Russians have the initiative is definitely within the vicinity of Popashna, my apologies, and the loss of the defensive emplacements around that town of Popashna was a heavy blow to Ukrainian forces, and I do know that the Ukrainians were trying everything within their capabilities not to lose Popasna and have this breakout that we're seeing now of Russian forces. Remember, the ground is drying out, and we're starting to see the capability of Russian forces in terms of when they decide to maneuver. They are indeed able to maneuver much better now, as opposed to earlier in some of the campaigns where they were getting stuck in many of these swampy areas. Again, a lot of it's drying out, and a lot of this area is kind of in the east or the western side, southeastern, western side of the Donetsk River that kind of runs along this area where my cursor is. This area now on this side, going towards Bakhmut and other areas, is mainly plains and very, very wide open spaces that make it very much gives the Russians the ability to maneuver in these wide open spaces, and that's what we're seeing now take place in some of these areas. Now, obviously, the Russians are still not maneuvering the way they would like. They are continuing to methodically utilize heavy artillery, tactical air assets to reduce Ukrainian forces. But again, we are starting to see that maneuver element really starting to take shape in this ongoing conflict. But that's what we have for today. I also want to talk about the possibility of Finland joining NATO. What could be holding that up, and what would be the Russian reaction? Is it a win for Finland joining NATO, or does it put Finland in a precarious situation in which you could see some sort of possible Russian preemption, or what would be the Russian answer to Finland attempting to join NATO? So we'll have more very, very soon. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.